Why would a married man, bound by vows and responsibilities, suddenly find himself drawn towards someone else? What hidden force makes him look beyond stability and routine and feel a pull he cannot fully explain? On the surface, it seems like contradiction, but beneath, there is a secret reason, one that has less to do with you and more to do with the restless nature of his own will. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that desire is not a choice, but a force that moves us, often against reason. The married man may not even understand why his heart shifts. He only feels a silent current pulling him, a current stronger than logic or morality. It is not simply passion, nor only weakness. It is the hidden hunger of the human will, always chasing what it does not yet possess. This video uncovers that secret. Step by step, you will see why a man can fall even while bound, why attraction grows in forbidden soil, and what it reveals about desire itself. The hunger for what feels forbidden. There is something in human nature that makes the forbidden shine brighter than what is allowed. A married man may live surrounded by stability, comfort, and even affection, yet the moment he feels a boundary, his desire begins to grow. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that desire is born not from reason, but from the will, a blind, restless force that pushes us to chase what seems just out of reach. In the case of a married man, the will often awakens, most strongly when he encounters the forbidden. This hunger is not about logic. If he stopped to think carefully, he would recognize the risks. He could lose respect, peace, even the love of his family. But the will does not care about consequences. It only knows one language, wanting, and what is marked as off-limits becomes charged with even more energy. The forbidden feels alive, while the familiar begins to look ordinary. In this tension, attraction is born. The forbidden also carries mystery. Mystery creates a space where imagination runs free. In the safety of marriage, much of life is predictable. The days repeat and routine sets in. But when his eyes wander toward what he cannot easily have, imagination fills the gap with excitement. Schopenhauer explained that much of what we call passion is actually projection. We project our own restless will onto another person, giving them qualities and meanings that may not even belong to them. A married man does this unconsciously. He projects his hunger for newness onto someone else and convinces himself that the attraction is unique and undeniable. This is why the forbidden becomes magnetic. It is not only about the person in front of him. It is about the restless will inside of him. The will tells him, here is something you cannot claim openly, and that is exactly why you want it. The simple fact that boundaries exist makes the desire grow stronger. What is distant seems more valuable than what is near. What is not yet possessed feels more alive than what has been held for years. The hunger for what is forbidden also ties to the illusion of freedom. Within marriage, he feels tied to roles, responsibilities, and expectations. The forbidden offers the illusion that he can break free, even if only in secret. This imagined freedom is powerful because it seems to answer the silent dissatisfaction that routine cannot cure. Schopenhauer saw life as a cycle of desire. Once one wish is fulfilled, another arises. For the married man, this cycle means that even if his marriage is stable, his will still looks for the next desire. And the forbidden. Desire feels stronger than all others. The tragedy is that this hunger does not lead to lasting satisfaction. The moment the forbidden becomes familiar, the desire begins to fade. The will moves on, restless again, chasing something new. This is why Schopenhauer believed human desire is a source of suffering. We are always reaching, but never at rest. For the married man, this means he may feel a powerful attraction today, but tomorrow the hunger will turn elsewhere. Still, while it lasts, the attraction feels overwhelming, almost uncontrollable. This hunger also explains why married men often appear conflicted. They may speak of loyalty and love for their family, but their actions reveal another force pulling them. The will does not respect rules. It does not care about vows. It moves beneath the surface, shaping behavior in ways even the man himself struggles to understand. He may try to fight it, but fighting only makes the desire feel stronger. The forbidden becomes a flame, and the will keeps reaching toward it. The forbidden also flatters the ego. To feel desired by someone outside the marriage gives him a sense of power. It tells him he is still attractive, still alive, still able to awaken desire in others. This reassurance feeds the hunger even more. The forbidden is not only about passion, it is about identity. It touches the fear of aging, of fading, of losing vitality. In this way, the forbidden becomes a mirror. It reflects his own insecurities and covers them with temporary fire. At its core, the hunger for what is. Forbidden reveals the truth of Schopenhauer's philosophy. Desire is endless, and satisfaction is fleeting. The married man falls because the will inside him demands it, not because it is reasonable or even truly meaningful. He is pulled by a force older than his vows, older than logic, older than reason itself. And while he may think the attraction is about the other person, it is in fact about the restless hunger that never stops whispering inside him. This is the secret reason why the forbidden feels so irresistible. It is not about love. It is not even about choice. It is about the will, blind, restless, and always hungry for what it cannot freely have. The weight of routine and the thirst for escape. Marriage often brings stability, but stability has a hidden cost: repetition. The same mornings, the same duties, the same small talks, the same cycle of days that begin to blend together. What once felt like comfort can begin to feel like a cage. For a married man, this sense of endless repetition creates a silent burden. And with that burden comes the thirst for escape. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that life itself is defined by the restless will, an inner force that always drives us to seek what is missing. In marriage, many of a man's desires are already fulfilled. He has a partner, a home, perhaps children, shared responsibilities. But once those needs are satisfied, the will does not stop. It simply creates new cravings. Routine then becomes a mirror of his restlessness. He looks at the life he built and sees stability, but the will whispers, "You need something more." This something more often appears in the form of attraction to another person. The new presence represents a break in the monotony, a spark, in the middle of repetition. It is not necessarily about deeper love or stronger compatibility. It is about the thrill of contrast. In a life where days feel predictable, anything unexpected carries a special power. Schopenhauer explained that the will plays tricks on us, making us believe that the next desire will finally satisfy us. For the married man, the attraction outside the marriage feels like that next promise of satisfaction. Routine also weakens sensitivity to what is already valuable. The familiar becomes invisible. He may have a partner who is loyal, supportive, and loving, but daily repetition blinds him to it. What he sees every day feels ordinary. What he does not have feels extraordinary. This is the paradox created by routine. It hides blessings behind the veil of normality while highlighting the appeal of what is new. The thirst for escape grows because the ordinary no longer excites him. Escape does not always mean leaving physically. Often, it begins in the mind. Fantasies, daydreams, curiosity. These are all escapes from routine. They give a sense of freedom without changing the structure of daily life. But when these fantasies find a real object, another person, the temptation becomes much harder to resist. The attraction is not only about the person themselves, but about what they represent: a doorway out of repetition. The weight of routine is also connected to time. As years pass, a man may begin to feel the pressure of aging. He looks at his life and wonders if passion has disappeared forever. The thirst for escape becomes stronger as a way to deny that time is moving forward. A new attraction feels like proof that he is still alive, still capable of desire, still desired by others. This illusion of youth renews his sense of power, making the forbidden pull even harder to resist. But as Schopenhauer warned, desire is deceptive. The married man believes that escape will bring joy, but in truth, the joy is temporary. The will does not rest once it is satisfied. It soon creates new needs, new thirsts, new escapes to chase. What feels like a solution today becomes tomorrow's disappointment. Routine returns, even in the new place. The cycle repeats because the will never ends. This truth reveals why so many men cheat but do not leave. They are not necessarily searching for a new life. They are searching for a break from repetition. The marriage gives stability, and the affair gives novelty. Each satisfies a different hunger. The man convinces himself he needs both to feel balanced. But this is only an illusion, an attempt to escape boredom without facing the deeper reality of the restless will. Routine itself is not the enemy. The problem is how the man responds to it. If he does not face his inner restlessness, he will always see routine as prison and escape as freedom. But if he learns to see meaning in stability, routine can become a foundation instead of a burden. Schopenhauer would argue, however, that most people are too driven by will to reach this understanding. They chase instead of reflect, and so they remain trapped in cycles of desire and disappointment. The weight of routine explains why forbidden attraction feels so strong. It is not that the marriage has no value. It is that the will cannot bear repetition without creating new cravings. The thirst for escape is the natural response of a restless heart. The tragedy is that escape rarely brings peace. It brings a moment of fire, followed by the same cycle once again. In the end, the married man stays because the structure of routine anchors him, but he cheats because the same routine makes him thirsty for escape. This paradox is not logic. It is psychology. It is the restless will of Schopenhauer at work, chasing, fleeing, never satisfied, always hungry for something beyond the present moment. When you begin to see these hidden patterns, everything about love and desire starts to make sense. The Jung method shows you how to uncover them and reclaim your inner clarity. The link is pinned in the first comment. The ego's desire to be desired. One of the deepest truths about human nature is that we do not only want to love, we also want to be wanted. For a married man, this truth becomes a hidden engine behind many of his choices. Even when he has stability, at home, he still craves confirmation that he matters, that he is still attractive, still powerful, still able to awaken desire in someone else. This craving is not about reason. It is about the ego's hunger to feel alive. Arthur Schopenhauer saw desire as endless. Once one need is met, the will immediately creates another. A man may already have the loyalty of a partner, the respect of a family, and the identity of a husband. Yet the will whispers again, prove yourself, prove that you are still wanted. This whisper grows louder when daily life feels repetitive, when aging begins to show, or when the spark of romance fades into routine. The ego cannot rest with what it already has. It seeks fresh evidence, fresh admiration, fresh proof of its worth. This is why attention from someone outside the marriage feels intoxicating. It is not only about the person themselves, but about what their attention represents. A mirror reflecting the man's ego. In that mirror, he sees himself as desired, as vital, as more than just a role. The attraction becomes less about true connection and more about validation. Schopenhauer explained that much of what we chase is not the object itself, but the feeling. It awakens in us The married man chases the feeling of being wanted because it reassures him against his deepest fears, the fear of being forgotten, of fading, of becoming invisible. The ego thrives on novelty because novelty feels like proof. His partner may still love him, but her love has become familiar. Familiar love is steady, but it does not excite the ego. The ego wants the rush of new admiration, the thrill of fresh attention. It is like a flame that burns brighter when it is newly lit. In the eyes of someone else, he sees confirmation that he is still capable of inspiring desire. That confirmation feeds his ego more than years of steady devotion at home. This is not a rational process. He may even know that it is dangerous, but the ego is not moved by caution. It is moved by hunger. Schopenhauer believed the ego's desires are illusions created by the will, chasing images that promise happiness but rarely deliver it. For the married man, the illusion is simple. If someone else desires me, then I am still valuable. He clings to this thought, even if it pulls him into contradiction. The desire to be desired also explains why some men pursue attention without intending to leave their marriage. They are not necessarily looking for a new life. They are looking for proof that they are still strong, still attractive, still capable of pulling hearts toward them. The marriage provides stability, but it does not provide fresh validation. For that, the ego looks outward. The man convinces himself he is only flattered, only curious, but beneath those excuses lies the deeper truth. He wants his ego to be fed. This craving can lead to behaviors that confuse both partners. At home, he may act distant or restless. Outside, he may seek eye contact, conversation, or even secret affairs. The contradiction is that he often does not want to abandon his marriage. He wants both, the steady love that grounds him and the new attention that excites him. This paradox reveals the endless hunger of the ego. It is not satisfied with what it has, it always wants more. Yet the tragedy is that the validation never lasts. The more he seeks to be desired, the more quickly the feeling fades. What was thrilling yesterday feels ordinary today. The will immediately creates new hunger, pushing him to seek again. This cycle leaves him restless, always chasing, never content. Schopenhauer warned that life is driven by desire, but marked by dissatisfaction. The ego's hunger to be desired is a perfect example of this truth. From the outside, it may seem confusing. Why would a man risk so much just to feel admired? The answer is simple, but profound. To the ego, admiration is survival. It tells him he still has value, still has power, still has meaning. Without it, he feels invisible. The marriage may give him love, but if that love no longer excites the ego, he looks elsewhere for the spark. The ego cannot stand silence. It needs applause, even if it comes in whispers. This explains why married men sometimes fall where they did not plan to fall. It begins with small gestures, glances, conversations. The ego feels fed and the attraction grows. He mistakes validation for connection. In truth, he is not falling in love with another person. He is falling in love with the reflection of himself that they give him. This is why Schopenhauer's insight remains timeless. Desire is rarely about the object. It is about the illusion we project onto it. In the end, the ego's desire to be desired is one of the secret reasons married men start falling. They fall not because their marriage has no value, but because the ego craves more than stability. It craves admiration, novelty, and proof, and until he confronts this hunger, the cycle will repeat. He will keep seeking mirrors to reassure him, forgetting that no reflection can satisfy a restless will, the illusion of a perfect escape. For many married men who begin to feel an unexpected pull, the attraction outside their marriage does not only promise attention or novelty. It promises escape. In their imagination, the new connection seems like a doorway out of burdens, out of routine, out of silent dissatisfaction. They start to believe that this attraction is not just another spark, but the perfect answer to what feels missing. Yet, as Schopenhauer explained, this belief is an illusion, a trick of the restless will that convinces us the next desire will finally bring peace. The escape looks perfect because it is painted with imagination. Unlike the marriage, which has years of reality attached to it, the forbidden attraction is still free of weight. There are no bills, no conflicts, no responsibilities tied to it. It is pure fantasy, untested and idealized. The man projects onto it all the qualities he craves: freedom, excitement, admiration, renewal. He convinces himself that this escape holds the solution to his dissatisfaction. In truth, what he loves most is not the person, but the image of freedom they represent. This illusion grows stronger the more he feels trapped by routine. Schopenhauer described life as a pendulum, swinging between desire and boredom. In marriage, after many years, the pendulum often leans toward boredom. To escape boredom, the will creates new desires. The forbidden attraction becomes the latest swing of the pendulum, promising to erase monotony and awaken passion. But the pendulum never stops. What feels like escape today soon becomes tomorrow's boredom. The cycle continues because the will is never satisfied. The illusion of a perfect escape is also tied to selective vision. The man sees only what he wants to see. He ignores the risks, the conflicts, the possible disappointments. He filters reality through the lens of desire. Schopenhauer noted that when desire takes over, reason becomes a servant, justifying whatever the will demands. So the married man tells himself stories, that this attraction is different, that it is fate, that it is worth the risk. These stories feed the illusion, making the escape feel more real than the life he already lives. At the same time, the escape feels safe precisely because it is not yet real. As long as it remains in the realm of imagination or secrecy, it cannot be tested. Reality has not yet cracked its surface. That is why it feels perfect, because it is untouched. The marriage, on the other hand, has faced struggles, arguments, and disappointments. Compared to reality, fantasy always shines brighter. But the brightness is a trick. It fades the moment fantasy is forced into daily life. The illusion of escape also provides temporary relief from responsibility. In the marriage, he carries roles: provider, partner, father. Each role has duties. In the forbidden attraction, he feels free of those roles. He can simply be a man desired, a man admired, without the weight of expectation. This freedom feels intoxicating, but it is only temporary. Schopenhauer would remind us that no matter where one goes, the will follows. The restlessness cannot be escaped because it lives inside the person, not outside. This explains why many men fall into emotional entanglements without ever leaving their marriage. They do not actually want to abandon their life. They want to borrow the feeling of escape without paying its full cost. The attraction becomes a secret vacation from reality. It is not built to replace the marriage, but to balance the weight of it. The illusion makes him believe he has discovered a perfect balance, when in truth, he is only deepening the conflict inside himself. Over time, the illusion reveals its cracks. The escape begins to demand more. Secrecy becomes heavy, guilt creeps in, the thrill fades, and the same questions return. What now? What next? This is the moment Schopenhauer's truth becomes clear. Desire cannot be satisfied permanently. Each fulfilled wish simply gives rise to another. The escape that once looked perfect now looks ordinary, and the will begins to crave again. Still, while the illusion lasts, it feels powerful. It explains why married men start falling. They believe they have found a path out of suffering, a way to reclaim youth, freedom, and passion. But what they truly found is the latest trick of the restless will, The will promises peace, but delivers only another cycle. The marriage anchors them, but the illusion of escape tempts them, and in the space between, they fall. The secret is that no escape outside can silence the will inside. A married man who falls for another is not real. The mirror of his own dissatisfaction. When a married man begins to fall for someone outside his vows, it is tempting to think the attraction is all about that other person. But in truth, what he sees is often a reflection of his own dissatisfaction. Arthur Schopenhauer taught that human beings project their restless will outward, attaching it to objects and people as if they were the cause of desire. In reality, the source is internal. The man is not simply responding to another's presence, he is staring into a mirror that reveals his own hidden hunger. Dissatisfaction builds quietly in marriage. It may not always be dramatic. Sometimes it is just the slow weight of routine, the fading of novelty, or the silence of unspoken needs. Over time, this inner emptiness grows, but instead of recognizing it as his own, he projects it outward. He convinces himself that another person holds the answer, that their smile, their attention, their presence can fill the void. In truth, what attracts him most is not them, but the feeling they awaken, the illusion that his dissatisfaction has found a cure. This mirror effect is powerful because it hides the real issue. Instead of asking, "Why am I restless?" the man thinks, "She is the reason I feel alive again." The other person becomes a screen onto which he projects everything he misses: excitement, validation, meaning. Schopenhauer explained that desire is blind. It does not see reality clearly. It only sees what the will wants to see. That is why the attraction feels overwhelming. It is fueled not by truth, but by projection. In this sense, the married man falls not for who the other person truly is, but for what they represent. They represent escape from monotony, proof of desirability, a promise of new life. Each of these images comes from his own dissatisfaction. The other person simply reflects it back to him, like a mirror. He looks at them and feels desire, but the real fire is burning inside himself. The tragedy is that this projection cannot last forever. As time passes, reality always enters. The other person reveals their flaws, their limits, their ordinary side. The mirror cracks, and the man is forced to face the truth. The dissatisfaction never left. It only hid behind a fantasy. Schopenhauer would say this is the endless cycle of desire. Once one wish is satisfied, another rises. No person can permanently cure a restless will. The mirror of dissatisfaction also explains why some men fall again and again. They believe each new attraction is the answer, but each time the pattern repeats: desire, projection, disappointment. The will creates hunger. The man projects it outward, and when reality fails to match the fantasy, dissatisfaction returns. Without awareness, he becomes trapped in this cycle, blaming others for a restlessness that lives inside himself. At the same time, this mirror shows something about human fragility. The married man is not always chasing only pleasure. Sometimes he is chasing meaning. He feels unseen in his daily life, so he looks for a reflection that tells him he still matters. He feels aging pressing in, so he looks for a reflection that says he is still young. He feels ordinary, so he looks for a reflection that makes him feel extraordinary. Each of these needs comes from within, but he seeks them outside, mistaking the reflection for the source. From the outside, it may appear like betrayal, and it is. But beneath betrayal lies this deeper psychology. He is not simply abandoning loyalty. He is searching for himself in another. He does not realize that the dissatisfaction cannot be cured by escape. It must be faced within. Schopenhauer's insight is sharp here, Happiness is not found in satisfying every desire, because desire itself is endless. The more he projects, the more he will suffer. Yet while the projection lasts, it feels real. This is why married men fall so hard, so quickly. They are not just falling for someone else. They are falling into their own reflection. The version of themselves they long to see, the self they fear they have lost. The mirror tells them, "You are alive again." And in that illusion they forget that the dissatisfaction has not vanished, it has only changed shape. In the end, the secret reason lies not in another person, but in the restless will, the married. Man falls because he's unsatisfied with himself, with his life, with the limits of routine. The other person becomes the mirror that reflects back the hunger he refuses to face. Until he recognizes this, the pattern will continue. He will keep falling for mirrors, believing they are doors, and discovering too late that the dissatisfaction was never outside. It was always within. The fear of emptiness without the marriage. Behind every act of desire, there is also fear. For the married man who begins to fall for someone else, the attraction may seem like a new fire, but it does not erase the deeper truth. He is afraid of emptiness. Arthur Schopenhauer wrote that human life is filled with suffering, and that desire is a restless force that tries to hide the emptiness at the core of existence. In marriage, even when routine feels heavy, there is still structure. There is still identity. There is still a place that holds him. Without it, he fears he would collapse into a void. This fear explains the paradox. He may betray his vows, but he rarely abandons the marriage. The affair gives him thrill, but the marriage gives him grounding. He cheats because he is restless, but he stays because he is afraid. Afraid of silence, of loneliness, of becoming undefined without the role of husband, father, or provider. Even if he complains about the weight of responsibility, that same weight protects him from the terror of being no one. Schopenhauer described existence as a pendulum between desire and boredom. The marriage often represents the side of boredom, predictable, repetitive, ordinary. The attraction outside the marriage represents desire, exciting, dangerous, alive. But when faced with the possibility of leaving, the man imagines what comes after. He sees himself alone in an empty apartment, or questioned by friends and family, or stripped of his daily role. Suddenly, boredom feels safer than emptiness. He clings to the marriage not because it is perfect, but because it shields him from the void. The fear of emptiness also connects to mortality. Aging reminds him that time is passing, that youth is slipping away. The marriage, with its routines and shared life, softens this fear by giving him continuity. To leave would be to face aging alone. To cheat may feel like a denial of time. But to stay married is a defense against the final silence that waits for everyone. The man does both because he is torn between denial and fear. The attraction is denial of aging. The marriage is protection against death's shadow. There is also the fear of judgment. To leave would be to expose himself to society's eyes. Friends, children, parents, co-workers, all would see him as the man who destroyed his own family. Even if he is already guilty in secret, the public shame feels unbearable. The marriage becomes a shield against that shame. As long as he stays, the world believes he is still loyal. This illusion is enough to protect his fragile sense of self. But the deepest fear is not about society. It is about himself, the married. Man senses that without the structure of his marriage, he would have to face his own dissatisfaction naked. He could no longer blame routine or family or duty. He would have to face the restless will directly, and that is terrifying. Schopenhauer explained that most people avoid confronting the truth of their own emptiness. They seek distractions, desires, escapes, anything but silence. The marriage, even when heavy, provides distraction. It fills the space with tasks, roles, and noise. To lose it would mean facing the silence he dreads. This is why he falls for another, but still stays. The attraction promises excitement, but the marriage protects him from emptiness. Both desires live inside him, the hunger for thrill and the fear of void. He tries to hold them together, believing he can balance them. In truth, he is trapped. Each choice feeds one fear while awakening another. If he denies desire, he fears boredom. If he denies marriage, he fears emptiness. So he cheats and stays, restless and afraid. From the outside, it may look like selfishness, and it is, but it is also human fragility. The man is not only choosing desire, he is fleeing emptiness. The marriage may no longer bring joy, but it brings form. It gives him a name, a place, a shield. Without it, he would face himself, and that is the confrontation he most fears. Schopenhauer's philosophy explains the tragedy. Desire drives him outward, fear pulls him back, and in between lies suffering. The married man cannot escape the cycle because the will never rests. He may find moments of passion, but passion fades. He may find comfort in marriage, but comfort becomes routine. What he cannot bear is the void beneath both. That is why he stays, even as he falls elsewhere. The fear of emptiness without the marriage is stronger than the fire of desire. The conflict between will and reason. Every married man who feels a forbidden attraction lives a battle inside himself. On one side stands the will, blind, restless, always chasing desire. On the other side stands reason, logical, cautious, aware of consequences. Arthur Schopenhauer described this conflict as the essence of human suffering. Our reason may know what is right, but our will pushes us toward what is dangerous. In the case of a married man, this inner war explains why he cheats, why he falls, yet why he also stays. The will whispers, chase what excites you, take what feels alive. It does not care about vows or stability. Its only law is hunger. The reason responds, think of your family, think of your future, do not risk what you have built. The man hears both voices. He knows one is reckless, but he feels the other is too heavy. The conflict exhausts him, because whichever path he chooses, suffering follows. Schopenhauer argued that the will is stronger than reason. This is why men often act against their better judgment. They know the risks, but they act anyway. Desire is not a choice, it is a force. Reason is the lantern that lights the road, but the will is the storm that pushes the traveler forward. The married man may see clearly that falling for someone else could destroy his life, yet the will convinces him that the risk is worth the thrill. Still, reason never disappears. It waits, it warns, it punishes afterward with guilt. After the thrill, reason speaks louder. What have you done? How will you face her eyes? How will you keep this secret? This is the endless cycle. Will drives him forward, reason drags him back, and between them lies suffering. He cheats, then feels shame. He promises to stop, then desire rises again. The war repeats without end. This conflict also explains why many men do not leave their marriage. The will pushes them toward forbidden desire, but reason reminds them of the cost of breaking everything. Reason holds them inside the structure, even if the will keeps wandering outside it. They stay not because they are fully loyal, but because reason chains them to the stability they fear to lose. Without reason, many would abandon everything in pursuit of desire. Without will, many would remain numb inside routine. The two forces clash, and the man tries to serve both. Schopenhauer's philosophy paints this as a tragedy of human existence. We are torn between what we want and what we know. Satisfaction never lasts, and reason cannot silence the will. For the married man, this tragedy becomes personal. He is pulled by thrill but chained by duty. He dreams of freedom but fears its consequences. The result is a divided self, living half in light and half in shadow. This conflict shows in his behavior. At times he may act distant, restless, searching for something he cannot name. At other times he may act overly responsible, trying to cover his tracks or convince himself he is still in control. The shifts confuse even him. He wonders why he cannot simply be content. The answer is that contentment is rare when the will rules. As Schopenhauer warned, desire is endless, and reason can only guide, never fully conquer it. The illusion he clings to is that he can balance both. He believes he can let the will play in secret while reason protects his home. He tells himself he is in control. In truth, he is only deepening the war inside. The will grows restless with secrecy, and reason grows heavier with guilt. The balance never lasts. The pendulum swings between thrill and regret, and peace is nowhere to be found. What makes this conflict tragic is that both sides hold truth. The will is not wrong in seeking life, and reason is not wrong in guarding stability. The man is torn because he wants both, passion and security, freedom and safety. But Schopenhauer reminds us that life rarely allows both at once. To chase desire is to risk loss. To cling to reason is to feel restless. The man falls because he cannot choose fully. He cheats because the will pushes him. He stays because reason chains him. And so he lives divided, unsatisfied in both directions. This is the heart of the secret reason married men fall. It is not only about attraction, but about conflict. A conflict older than marriage, older than society, older than any vow. It is the timeless war between will and reason, between hunger and logic. The man is only its stage, and his choices only its symptoms, the silent bonds that still hold him. When a married man begins to fall for someone else, it may seem that nothing ties him anymore. Desire pulls him outward, imagination fuels him. The will pushes restlessly, and yet he often does not leave. He cheats, he hides, he struggles, but he remains within his marriage. Why? Because beneath all the fire of desire lie silent bonds, invisible threads that still hold him, stronger than he admits. Arthur Schopenhauer believed that life is not guided by freedom as much as by forces we barely control. Among those forces are attachments built over time: family, duty, routine, identity. A man may rebel against them in secret, but he cannot easily cut them away. They live in his unconscious like anchors. Even when the will pushes him towards someone new, these anchors keep him from drifting completely. One of the strongest bonds is shared history. Years of life together create more than memories. They create roots. The marriage carries stories, struggles, sacrifices, and victories. To abandon it would be to abandon not only a partner, but also a part of himself. The other person may awaken his desire, but they do not hold his history. History whispers to him in quiet moments, reminding him of the weight of years. This whisper is one of the silent bonds that hold him. Another bond is identity. In society, he is not just a man, he is a husband, maybe a father, a provider. These roles give him meaning. Without them, he fears he would dissolve into emptiness. Even if he betrays those roles in secret, he still clings to them in public. They form part of his persona, the mask that shows him as stable, respectable, complete. To leave would be to break that mask, and the shame feels heavier than the thrill of desire, so he stays, not for love alone, but for identity itself. The bond of responsibility also ties him. Children, finances, extended family, all depend on his presence. Even if his heart wanders, his hands still carry duties. Schopenhauer would call this another form of suffering, The will pulls him toward freedom, but responsibility holds him in place. He cannot simply walk away because the web of life is too entangled. These responsibilities, though silent, bind him more strongly than passion can break. There is also the bond of familiarity. After years in marriage, two people become mirrors of each other's lives. They share habits, inside jokes, rhythms of daily existence. The comfort of being known, without explanation, is not easily replaced. The forbidden attraction may feel exciting, but it cannot yet offer that level of recognition. The man senses this difference, even if he does not speak of it. He feels anchored by familiarity, even as he longs for novelty. These bonds explain why the paradox remains. He may fall for someone else, but he rarely leaves. The silent threads hold him even as desire burns. He lives in conflict, torn between the fire of will and the weight of bonds. Schopenhauer would see this as another expression of life's tragedy. Freedom is never complete because attachments always shape our path. The silent bonds also feed guilt. The more he stays, the more he realizes what he risks. He looks at his family, his responsibilities, his shared history, and he feels the shadow of guilt deepen. This guilt becomes yet another tie. It punishes him, but also keeps him anchored. He tells himself he must at least remain, even if he cannot resist temptation. The bonds hurt him, but they also prevent collapse. In truth, these bonds are double-edged. They protect him from emptiness, but they also trap him in contradiction. He cannot fully surrender to desire, nor can he fully return to innocence. He becomes a man divided, chained by silent ties, while pulled by restless will. This is why he suffers, why he cannot break free, why he remains both loyal and unfaithful at once. The lesson is clear. The secret reason married men fall is not only passion. It is the restless will, projecting dissatisfaction and chasing illusions. But the reason they stay, even while falling, is the silent bonds that still hold them, bonds of history, identity, duty, and familiarity. These invisible threads are stronger than desire, even if they do not feel as fiery. Schopenhauer's insight helps us see the paradox without romanticizing it. The married man is not free. He is chained by his own will and by the bonds of his life. His fall is not a story of love alone, but of conflict, projection, and suffering. He may believe he is choosing, but in truth he is carried by forces larger than himself. Hunger on one side, bonds on the other. And so he remains, restless, yet anchored, falling yet staying, caught between desire and the silent ties that never let go.